I'm so glad you're asking about my
All right,
dad.
I am recording.
Perfect. Can you hear me, Dorothy?
Yes, I can.
So again, tell us who you are, give us a little intro about yourself,
Well-
and tell us a little bit about the relationship with Baker Knight.
Well, Baker Knight was my husband, and I met him through Ricky Nelson. And he at that time had written, I don't know, maybe 10 songs for him then, and then of course led into a lot more.
And they
Great. And how do you know of the relationship between Baker Knight and Rick Nelson? How did they meet each other? How did they start collaborating?
Well, the manager that Baker had back in, he came back in Alabama and he heard Baker sing and he heard his band and he thought that he could bring, should bring Baker to LA and that he could either sing some of his songs or he knew a lot of different people that would like his songs.
Okay, so Baker, I mean, he certainly was a poet and a songwriter.
Yes.
So you would say Rick Nelson kind of discovered his talent and brought him to the spotlight?
Yes, I would say so. I think Ricky was the first one, and he came over when Baker and I were living in Hollywood, and he would listen to him, and Daddy would play Baker. Baker would play, the different songs, and Ricky would sit in the chair and pay, very good attention. And then after he heard, he liked almost all of them. And
Oh, sure.
yeah,
That sounds absolutely amazing. And I just want to know, what do you think has changed between that era in Hollywood and today's Hollywood? In terms of the artistry.
well, I think it's changed a whole lot because when Baker wrote all those songs for Ricky and other people, they were more like, can I meet you at the drive-in, and a little more, like a little sweeter and than they are now. A lot of them now are not quite as sweet.
Tell me a little bit more about your relationship with Baker Knight, the artist. I mean, you were his partner, so tell me, was he an actual poet with you in your relationship, or was he just focused on the art so much that your relationship was just normal romantically?
Our relationship was very romantic, and it was also I helped him, in the middle of the night. He'd tell me, he'd write half the songs and wake me up and say, do you like this one better or do you like this one better? And I, would finish it off.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about Rick. What was he like as a person? Any special memories of him that stand out during all these years?
Well, he was very sweet and he was very shy. He really wasn't like David or Skip, the guy that is in his TV shows. He also sang all his songs in the Ozzie and Harriet show. Baker had like 20-some songs or 22 songs that Ricky took, and like every week or every other week he would sing, Baker's songs. And
were you a fan of Ozzie and Harriet show?
yes. Yeah,
What do you remember about it?
Huh?
What do you remember about that show?
Oh, I remember that I liked watching it to see if he was singing Baker's songs. I was checking on it every week.
Okay.
And he, that show went from when he was a little boy, when Ricky was a little boy, until he was much older.
That's right.
He got more handsome,
Right.
but I never.
And right, this might get you a bit emotional, but I'd love to know how you became aware of his death. How did you learn of it?
Oh, God, it was so terrible. I was having a few people over, and we got the news on TV, and it was so bad they left, and I was crying, and I called Baker and told him, and then he was crying, and he wanted me. He wanted me to go out and get all the papers and magazines.
Ricky's picture fell. He died.
What?
Ricky's picture fell on the ground at Dad's when he died.
Oh, and Baker had mentioned that at the time that he heard of Ricky's stuff, his picture seemed to fall on the ground, like Baker was a little bit, like ESP type, He believed he was religious, and he believed that he still got signs from God. And it was terrible. We cried for days, and I rushed out, and I went and got the papers for him, and I sent them, and he would cry, and I would cry, because Baker and Ricky and Dave, they were doing lots of things together. They used to they used to have Baker over, and they would sing different songs, and they would do the trapeze, but Baker wouldn't do them. He was said that wasn't quite for him. He'd write songs. And Ricky said, I'll sing them. But it was so sad. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't tell you.
Did you hear anything about Rick's drug use at all, or drug abuse?
No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't know that he ever did any of that. I didn't see him do any of that.
Right, because there was a lot of speculation that they found some, cocaine content in his when they did the autopsy and the investigations and things like that.
Yeah,
Many
but
people have clarified that in the documentary. Would you say?
well, I would say
these
that
things are not true?
I would say that it possibly belonged to somebody else that was in the plane. And I don't know if they gave him an autopsy or not, but I don't think that was his thing. I mean, I really don't think he cared that much, because he was always shy and sweet. If he'd been on all that, he'd been a lot noisier and like the rest of his band.
It was in his body.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, I didn't know that part of him. Okay. And,
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Dorothy, for sharing all of that. My last question to you is, how do you think Rick Nelson is remembered today?
I think he's remembered as the #1 teenage singer. I think that he grew up on the TV, like I said, and I think people never really thought anything bad of him. Even if it was bad, nobody would think it, because he never changed. He was always, sweet, handsome, beautiful, in every way.
And he came back and wrote Garden Party.
And then he, his last song was, I think, Garden Party, and if it fits so well, and I still think people thought the best of him always, as I did and Baker did.
Great. Well, I deeply appreciate the input, Dorothy. Thank you so much for that, and I think it'll be amazing on the documentary. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, thank you. I like very much talking about like two of my favorite men. Okay.
Right.